There's an electricity in the air, a sense of destiny, a sense of movement as these two individuals are drawn towards one another. Vayisa enav vayar, and he looked up and he saw her. Vatisai tenea vatereh, and she lifted up her eyes. She raised her eyes and she sees him. And from that moment, their lives are irrevocably changed. I'm not just referring to the latest romance or the latest movie about when Harry met Sally, but I'm referring rather to when Yitzchak met Rivka. It is the first encounter between these two singular souls, these two extraordinary individuals. The first time they set eyes upon one another, there's an electricity in the air. There's a sense of something special that is taking place here. Who says the Torah does not believe in love at first sight? This certainly looks like it. Now, we aren't the first to claim love at first sight. The Greeks have spoken about it. The Greeks have claimed it. Shakespeare is the one who said, and I have a quote here from him, whoever loved, that loved not at first sight. In other words, is it possible to love if you did not love at first sight? But the cynics defamed it, and they said, say, love at first sight, they said, is usually cured by a second glance. Despite this, the Torah does seem to give some credence, some recognition to that electricity, to that thunderbolt. And it seems to be a confirmation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu mezaveg zivugim, which means that God himself orchestrates the destiny or the meeting between two souls, that it's been something that has been predestined so that when they get to meet, at that first moment when they lock eyes with one another, it is a confirmation of something that was supposed to be, something that was always there. However, does that mean it's enough? Is love at first sight enough? Because it has actually been said that we shouldn't be surprised or we shouldn't be amazed by people who love at first sight. It said when people have been gazing and looking at each other for a lifetime and they still feel a love and a warmth and a commitment to one another, surely that is far more valuable. And of course the Torah recognizes it. I think the Torah recognizes the chemistry that is necessary between two individuals, as we see in this meeting, in this initial encounter between Rebekah and Isaac. But it also recognizes that that's in some ways a superficial love, a superficial kind of attraction, a warm and a good one, but not enough to sustain a lifetime, a partnership, a marriage. And that is why just a few verses later, the Torah speaks about the actual marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And listen to the way it describes it. And it says, "V'yevi'eha Yitzchak ha'ela Sarah." Isaac took Rebekah into Mom's tent, into Sarah's tent, his mother's tent. Vayikach et Rivka, and he married her. She became his wife. Vaye'ahaveha, and he loved her, and he was comforted. He found consolation after the death of his mother. And I think there's some very deep ideas that are involved here. First of all, you may have noticed it says he married her and then he loved her. We normally think, well, love, then marriage. You know, that's what goes together like a horse and carriage. So what's the tale of the marriage, then love here? Of course, there was the attraction before, but it's saying the real love between them was something that only grew once they got married. And it's what Rabbi Dessler puts quite profoundly when he says that we usually think that we give to the one that we love. But he suggests the very opposite. He says, no, we love the one to whom we give. The more we're giving to the other, that is what creates the love, the attachment, the commitment between the two parties, between the two partners. And then it says, "Vayinachem Yitzchak," and Yitzchak found comfort. Now that can be interpreted as, well, Rebekah came into his life, and then he felt for the first time since his mother, who he had been so especially and intimately connected to, and who, remember, he was the only son to her, so they would have had a very special relationship, that something had been missing, and there'd been a grieving and a gap and a vacuum in his life that is only filled now with Rebekah. So she brings the consolation. However, you can also interpret it in a slightly different way, is that V'nachem Yitzchak acharei mo. Why did he become comforted? Because he had expressed his love for Rebekah. By his giving of love, by the very act of giving, is that it is that which creates the consolation for himself and also creates the connection between them. So, in summary, Does Judaism believe in love at first sight? Yes. We have a proof of it in the great meeting between the two of them. Does it believe that love at first sight is all that will sustain a relationship? No. You also need the love that will bite, not just the sight, but the love that bites, the love that goes a lot deeper, the love that is sustained by giving. Shabbat Shalom.